One. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Thriving Through Trials, the show that's dedicated to bringing hope and inspiration to those facing debilitating or potentially debilitating diseases and challenges. I'm Dr. Samantha Benjamin-Allen, a board-certified physical medicine and rehabilitation physician and the founder of Freedom Wellness Physiatry, a direct specialty rehabilitation consulting practice serving the DMV in the home setting. In this show, we'll be shining a light on remarkable individuals who have not just survived, but thrived beyond their circumstances. We'll be exploring their journeys, their resilience, and the strategies they've used to regain mobility, independence, and improve quality of life. Our goal is to empower, encourage, and motivate you, our viewers, and provide a source of inspiration in the face of adversity. Join us as we uncover stories of triumph and learn how to thrive through life's toughest trials. Today, I have Sandie Gascon here with us, and she is going to tell us about her journey thriving with lupus and just share all the exciting things going on in her life. So, Sandie, thank you for being here. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm an integrative healing practitioner and the founder of Heal Yourself, the author of Heal Yourself, my book. And I was diagnosed with lupus way back in 2009. And at the time, I was not into natural healing. I was not very healthy. I did not eat healthy. I did not practice anything that had to improve my well-being. But when I was diagnosed with lupus, I knew I didn't want to go to the medication route. And it really sent me on this lifelong natural healing journey. I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I really started with trial and error. And after that diagnosis in 2009, by 2012, I just kept getting sicker and sicker. And I ended up having to quit my job, move home with my parents, and go onto government disability. And I had a really dark year that year. And it was actually through a podcast that kind of shifted my energy, my well being, my purpose. And I just became so driven and motivated again to find a way to heal naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept trying. I worked to get off of the medication that I was actually on for bipolar depression and did that naturally. I was able to balance my brain. And then I started working on focusing on my liver and my gut and just rebuilding my body. And that led me to becoming a practitioner and starting working with people all over the world. And over the years, I developed my own really comprehensive healing roadmap that looks at the body as a whole versus just trying to treat symptoms. And that's what led
Yeah.
me to write my book and begin the Integrative Healing Academy, where I train people to become practitioners.
Awesome. You're speaking my language, Sandie. So, tell me what the message was in that podcast that you started listening to when you were in the early parts of dealing with your lupus that sparked this drive in you and this desire to live better. Do you remember
Yeah,
what kind of
I do.
gave
I
you the
clearly
aha?
do. I was really stuck being a victim. Like I was so mad at society. I was mad at, the Food and Drug Administration for allowing these foods to be eaten and produced. And I was mad at my parents for not providing me a more healthy upbringing. And I was just really angry and frustrated, and I was giving away my power. And I realized in that moment that I really needed to shift focus. I needed to shift to just figuring out how to heal, letting go of that anger, and taking responsibility now. Because when I was a kid, yes, my parents fed me and I ate what was there and they let me eat whatever I wanted, really.
Mhm.
But I was now an adult. I had been living on my own for quite a while and I had so many opportunities to change. I could have looked into other things, but I didn't because it was hard and different and outside my comfort zone. So I had to really decide then that it was up to me to fix it. And it was nobody's fault because everybody was doing the best that they could. They didn't know any better. And so now I was learning and I had to choose to do something different.
Awesome. So you decided to take back control of your
Yeah.
health, because we do have um, authority to take care of our bodies.
Mhm.
And it sounds like you took that back after
Yeah.
feeling like a victim and having a lot of anger and resentment, and you decided that you were going to do the work to
Mhm.
take responsibility for your healing process, which is wonderful. So thank you for sharing that. Now, when you were in the early parts of your journey, were you taking medication in the beginning, or did you completely kind of reject the traditional method of treating lupus and find the natural ways to go about changing your diet and dealing with this illness on your own, or kind of walk me through what that looked
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, I completely rejected it because I was diagnosed with bipolar depression at 19 and I was put on, we tried a bunch of different medications, but we settled with Effexor. And that came with a lot of side effects that nobody told me about. And I
Mhm.
could not get off that drug. It was really preventing me from feeling any emotions. It might have helped with my symptoms a little bit, but I was a complete zombie. And so I
Mhm.
had this drug already that I couldn't get off of. And now they were trying to give me more drugs. They wanted to give me a beta blocker for my heart. They wanted to put me on, Plaquenil or methotrexate, which are immunosuppressants. And
Right.
I didn't want any more drugs, especially when they're not telling me what they're going to do to my body.
Right.
And around that time, I met somebody with lupus, which was, very much divine intervention, universal synchronicity, because she had been put on the drugs and she
Mhm.
started off with just joint pain.
Okay.
And she went on these drugs because her hands hurt. And now her hands were totally deformed. So the drugs didn't even work. And her
Mhm.
kidneys were failing, and her liver was failing, and her immune system was shot. And she just warned me. She's like, don't do what I did. Like, there is no saving me now. I have done so much damage. And she was like in a wheelchair, and it was very sad.
Okay.
And she was only like 50, and she looked like she was 80. And
Wow.
it was just such a message to me. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just knew that that didn't align with anything that felt good.
Right.
So I started off really focusing on diet
Mhm.
and trying to change my diet, but trying to make really quick fixes, and they like huge changes, abrupt changes, and it didn't work. It didn't last, or I got worse. And that's what really sent me into that spiral. And when I had that realization, first, it was like a vibrational shift where I'm like, I need to get determined to heal. I need to take my power back. And from that shift came the message, the answer that it's not just diet. Other people can eat these foods and not have reactions. I need to figure out why I'm having reactions. And I did have a degree, and I did finish my degree in biomedicine because originally I did want to go on to become a doctor.
Uh-huh.
But I changed course when I just wasn't syncing with the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
And I had this degree. I understood a lot about how the body worked, how the brain worked. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
need to use science to figure out how this can be done naturally versus pharmaceutically.
Right. I really appreciate that because nutrition is one of the areas I believe that there's a severe deficit in the westernized way of teaching medicine. And for
Mhm.
me personally, I've always saw that out on my own. It wasn't something that was kind of built into the
Yeah.
curriculum, and if so, very minimal in many places. And I think these conversations are sparking more efforts to increase that, but that's not how the system is designed, which is a
Yeah.
shame. Because our food is our medicine. Yes, there is a place for pharmaceuticals, but honestly, our lifestyle is the biggest contributor to our health.
Mhm.
And when we take care of our bodies and we listen to them, like you said, um, the woman who you spoke to talked about the side effects she was experiencing. And that's an important thing I want to bring to our listeners. If you do start something and you're noticing side effects, take a log, jot down what you're feeling so you can talk to your provider about what's going on. And if something isn't working for you, you don't want to keep continuing it and it's causing detriment. So it's very important to have a collaborative um, partnership with whoever it is that you're working with so that you guys can work together to come up with the best solution for you, because everyone is different and everything doesn't work for everyone. And just to preface this, because I didn't say it before, for anyone who's listening and isn't sure what lupus is, the full name is systemic lupus erythematous, and it's an autoimmune disorder. It's more common in women, and it frequently starts in childbearing age, but certainly that's not every case. And it can affect almost every organ system. So, like you mentioned, the woman you were talking to had effects with the kidney, the liver. It involves the skin, the joints. Sometimes these are the first things that show up. It's like the joint pain, and that's commonly what people might come in for. Sometimes they'll have a rash. We call it a malar rash, so it covers the nose area, around, the eyes. These are common symptoms of lupus, and sometimes they are photosensitive, meaning response to light, sensitivities to light or temperature. So people can experience joint pain when it's very cold. We call it Raynaud's, and the fingers can turn white, things like that. So that's just to give you guys a little knowledge on what lupus is, but it can be very devastating for many people. And I'm thankful to have Sandie on because she has been an overcomer in this lupus journey. So thank you for sharing. And just classic presentation for anyone who's wondering: fever, joint pain, and rash. Anyone who's a provider listening to this, look out for that, and let that throw off a signal in your mind to check for this, because you want to intervene early when things aren't going right. And there's some anti-inflammatory foods that maybe Sandie will share too, but I'll just share while I'm thinking about it. There's a drink that I blend that has ginger, celery, green apples. You can use turmeric, which is anti-inflammatory, and cucumber. What did I miss from that? Lemon. Sometimes I drink that, and it's really good for joint pain. So if anyone's listening and you experience joint pain, whether it's from lupus or anything else like arthritis, you can try making a drink with those ingredients, and I'll ask Sandie to share some of hers if she's willing
Yeah.
to. So go ahead.
Yeah, and what I found on my journey is that many of the symptoms that you experience, because I definitely had Raynaud's, but I have a genetic mutation it's a gene called NOS3, which means I don't produce enough nitric oxide.
Okay.
And that contributes to having Raynaud's. And
Mhm.
there's supplements that we can take to increase our nitric oxide and change that. So I found with lupus and a lot of conditions, there's a lot of symptoms that are happening, and they put them all together and stick a label on it
Mhm.
versus saying, okay, maybe your joint pain is because your uric acid levels are really high, or you're
Right.
eating too many oxalates, or
Yes.
there's an issue with your detox pathways. There might be
Yes.
some gene mutations there.
Mhm.
And when we start to look and we start to run the labs, we can actually see, oh, the symptom that I had with the bipolar depression was due to my brain chemistry. And there are supplements that I
Yes.
can take to balance my brain and live a very healthy, full, mentally stable life, even though,
Right.
yes, there is a very big genetic component, and my mother's side is very highly affected, and I'm not, because I took a different route and I
Mhm.
saw this is what my body needs to rebuild and rebalance and repair. And that's why it's so important to get these functional medicine labs, because you can determine very quickly. I've had clients come to me where they're diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and they don't even have any autoimmune markers, but they're still diagnosed with that. They're still treated for it. They're given Plaquenil, they're given prednisone, and
Mhm.
they're not even presenting with an autoimmune marker, but they're just trying to turn off a symptom. Versus
Right.
when we run the labs, we can see the oxalates, which are really sharp crystals that we eat in plants. And a lot of people stop having the ability to detoxify them because antibiotics destroy the bacteria in our gut that does that. And
Right.
so they start to absorb more because their gut can't break them down anymore. And
Mhm.
then this builds up in the body. And many people have, they're called endogenous producers of oxalates. They're already producing too many oxalates. And so they get all this joint pain, and nobody's looking at these things. So when we take a deeper look and say, okay, these are my symptoms, and it does play a role what your symptoms are, but instead we want to run the labs and just see what the body needs to heal, see where there's
Where
dysfunction,
there's
and start to address
deficit.
it.
Mhm. Yes. And it's important that we find the source of the symptoms, because like you said, sometimes there is not a clear explanation from standard labs
Yeah.
for these diseases that gives evidence that that's actually what the problem is. And still people get treatments for rheumatoid
Yeah.
arthritis when they actually don't show the markers that are positive in rheumatoid
Mm.
arthritis. So that's another thing to keep in mind. If you go through the testing and you find that you're actually not positive for the things that they're looking for, take caution in accepting treatments or medications when you don't have an answer yet. It's very important to have a proper diagnosis and source of issues that are arising in your body. So I appreciate you sharing that as well. Now, can you walk us through your approach with individuals who come to you with lupus? What would they expect if they come to you and say, you know, I've been having these symptoms, I've been diagnosed with lupus, I don't want to go the traditional approach. How can you help me?
Yeah, I have a really in-depth program, and it's definitely not for everybody because you have to want to make a lot of lifestyle changes. We don't make them quickly. It's not going to happen, over a day or a week. It's not going to be, here's a diet, go and change your whole life.
Mhm.
But you have to really be committed and ready to invest in yourself, invest the time, invest the funds, because you're going to be, doing labs, functional medicine labs that sadly aren't covered by insurance for almost all of the insurance companies that I've dealt with. Some of the health sharing companies will cover them, but it's a very different system. When you're going to the regular medical care system, it's a sick care system. They're looking for a diagnosis and they're giving you a drug that's not fixing it. It's just allowing you to continue going on. And sadly, they do come with a lot of side effects. And I'm not saying there's not a time and place for them. There's some people who aren't ready to make these changes. And for those that are, and they know they want to heal naturally, then the first thing I do is I run what I call the foundation labs, which are the organic acids test, a full blood panel, and a genetics test, because that information together is going to give us a ton of information on your neurotransmitters. So how your brain is working, your detox pathways, so how you're removing toxins. It's going to show us your thyroid, your mitochondria, which are your energy centers. It's going to show us where your nutritional deficiencies are. And genetically, it's going to allow us to customize supplements to your body. So something like turmeric actually slows down our phase 1 detox. And there's a specific enzyme in phase 1 that if you have a mutation there, you're already going too slow. And then you take something like turmeric, it's going to slow it
Make
down
it worse.
further. So, it's great for some things. And even those people, like I have that mutation and I still do turmeric sometimes, but I
Mhm.
don't do it all the time.
Right.
And so we run these foundation labs so we can really determine what you need and in the right form for your body. And at the same time, while we're waiting for those lab results to come in, because it takes 2 to 4 weeks, we're going to be looking at making changes in your nutrition, which is starting to really cut out the chemicals and the toxins that are in our food
Mhm.
and clean up our water and start to clean up our environment, because we are bombarded with toxins and chemicals
Mhm.
everywhere. And in order to heal, we have to think of our body as a bank account. So most of us, like, we start off with a certain balance and we just keep making withdrawal after withdrawal after withdrawal. Every stress we go through, the chemicals we're putting into our body, injuries, over exercising, this is all depleting our body's bank balance. And so
Mhm.
in order to start to heal, we got to really tone down the withdrawals. We'll never stop them completely, but we need to tone them down, and we need to start making the deposits so that our bank balance can go up. And that's why it's so important to start making those slow changes with our nutrition and our water and our environment, the what we put on our bodies, the chemicals that we're using. And then, of course, in order to heal, we need to work on mindset. Because if you're stressed, running around all day, in a rat race, your toxic relationships, your work is driving you crazy, you're always angry or frustrated or sad or upset, we need to start giving you tools to handle the stress in your life, because
Right.
that's definitely not taught in school. So we need to start giving you tools to change the way you look at things in life. And we can't get rid of all the stress, but we can make our
Change how we
plate,
respond to it. Yeah,
right?
for
We have to
sure.
change how we respond to it. So
Yeah.
it's a process where we do this foundation and then we go on to run further labs. We look at hormones and adrenals and our gut and heavy metals. And it's a very comprehensive program that works on the body as a whole. And it's really what I wanted when I started healing, because I didn't know anything back then. I didn't know about these labs. I didn't know about genetics. I didn't know about, learning to just cut out toxins versus going on these crazy diets that are out there. And it took me years and years to heal. Whereas, my clients are seeing such great results just in that foundation period. And then as they go on to complete the program, it's amazing how much faster they're healing because we have a plan.
Right. And tell me, from 2009, how long did you embark on this journey before you started to feel healed? How long did that take for you?
Yeah, so 2009, I was all like, yeah, I'm going to do this. 2012 was like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to live in my parents' basement and die. 2013, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this again. It took me a year to get off that medication safely and balance my brain. So 2014, I really had my first victory where I'm like, yes. And my brain was balanced. I had emotions again and energy. And so many of my symptoms of lupus went away once that medication was gone. So
Wow.
my energy started to come back and I felt better. And it probably was 2015 where the antibodies were gone.
Okay.
But I had massive cystic acne, like terrible. And so I'm still using trial and error. Obviously, I don't have any labs. So now what we're in year 6. And so year 6, I had a really big, I fell 100 steps backwards because I was trying all these crazy cleanses and diets trying to clear my skin. And I developed interstitial cystitis, which is this terrible, painful bladder condition.
Boy.
Yeah. And that was because of what I was taking. And I tried another year to heal myself. And I was like, wow, this is not working. I need labs. And I got certified to run the labs. And that's when I started it took me about 6 more months after I had the labs and I could see where I was causing the damage and how to fix it. And so by then I was fully healed and I got pregnant because that was my driving force throughout this was I wanted to get healthy enough to have
a
a
child.
baby. Because when I was sick, I'm like, I can't take care of myself. How am I going to take care of a child? And so that was my driving force. And I got pregnant at the end of 2017. And I felt amazing that whole year, 2017. 2016, I was really starting to feel good. And all the symptoms were going away. In 2017, I felt I couldn't even imagine that I got to that level of health. And then the next year,
Congratulations.
my son. Yeah.
And your baby's beautiful. I see the pictures back there. And when you're going through this healing journey, how would you say someone helped? If anyone was helpful, I'm sure there might have been people who weren't either, but what would you say helped you the most? Because, it's really hard to go through things alone. And it's a blessing when we have someone who comes in and maybe does or says something. I'm sure that lady in that podcast were 2 things, but was there anything in particular that you would say was helpful in that part of your journey from 2009 to 2017 that you would share with anyone who's listening who probably has people asking how they can help them, but they don't know what to say? What would you say to that question?
Well, most people at the time in my life when I chose to go this route, they all thought I was insane. And
that's usually what happens.
Right. So they all thought I was
yourself
crazy.
best. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so I really I felt alone a lot on my journey. Even like my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, he did not believe in natural. Nobody really around me believed in natural. My mom really didn't believe in natural, but anything that I could have said, Mom, I'm gonna go start my life and be a professional skydiver. And she'd be like, you do that, you've got this. So she
So your
definitely
mom's
has
a cheerleader for you, huh?
She has, yeah.
Awesome.
And
We all need somebody like that in our lives.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how crazy it was. She'd be like, go do it. And then my dad would be like, you're insane. That's too hard. Just
Mhm.
stay home and play it safe. So I
Right.
had these 2 years, right? But my mom was like, go, do it. You can do this. I believe in you. It doesn't matter how far-fetched it is. So, she's been like that ever since I was little. And sadly, she had a really tough journey and was really harmed by the pharmaceutical industry, like very polydrugged for trauma. Instead of given tools to deal with the trauma, it was just
Right.
more pharmaceuticals. And she was a driving force for me because I did not want to be like that. And I think what happened when in 2012, when I moved home with my parents, I had never wanted to be like that, like my mom, and end up on disability and not be able to take care of myself. And at that
Mhm.
time, my mom got up to about 300 pounds. She was on probably about 10 different pharmaceutical drugs. They were giving her electric shock therapy. And I did not want to end up like that. And then there I was, very much like that. And thankfully, my mom was able to get off of a lot of pharmaceutical medication.
Wonderful.
And she's definitely better than what she was because she couldn't have conversations or anything, and now she's there and alert. But there's been a significant harm. She had early onset Parkinson's from the electric shock therapy, and she's severe anxiety now, but she's still at a level of consciousness, and she's created a lifestyle for herself that she feels very safe and very content. And she's still a huge supporter of mine, and she's been a huge driving factor for me because not only did I know that that's not where I wanted to be, and I saw the harm
Mhm.
early on, but she's also been such a motivator, for me to just be like, whatever you feel is right, just go and do it.
Awesome. And what lessons could you share with our audience today? Number one lesson that you learned to this point in your journey
Mhm.
that you think would be of value for listeners.
Yeah, the number one lesson is to get the labs. Don't do what I did. Don't give yourself interstitial cystitis trying to guess. And I ended up, what happened for me is I went really high oxalates and really high sulfur in my diet, trying to
Mhm.
clean up my skin. And
Mhm.
genetically, I cannot do that. My detox pathways cannot handle those things.
Mhm.
And it just caused a lot of harm to my bladder. And once I figured that out, I was able to heal my bladder. But run the labs, because had I ran the labs, I wouldn't have made those mistakes. I would have
Right.
known, don't do that. This is not for you. And even just supplementally, like, people reach for that multivitamin, and that multivitamin can do so much harm if it's not in the right forms for your body.
Yeah, if it's not in alignment with what your needs are. And again, I stress that we are all different. Yes, we certainly have similarities too, but in terms of our medical needs and our body's needs, we're all different. So it's important to be sensitive to that and aware that what might work for one might not work for you. So
Yeah.
that is excellent advice. And do you have a take home message you want to share with us?
Yeah. Whenever you're starting on this journey, make changes slowly, because if you rush into it, you're going to get overwhelmed, and you're probably not going to stick to anything that you're doing with, whether it's with your supplements, whether it's with your diet, whether it's with just cleaning up your environment. If you go too quickly into it, it normally just leads to overwhelm. And it's really key to start tuning in and listening to your body, because we need to not give away our power when it comes to our body, and really tune in and feel what aligns with us
Mhm.
and what is right for us. And you can start feeling that gut feeling and follow it.
Definitely. And how can listeners find you? Can you share some information on how we can find you if anyone's interested in working with you or finding out more about you?
Yeah, so you can go to www.sgintegrativehealing.com. My book, Heal Yourself, is on Amazon and Kindle and Audible. So you can just do a search for it there. And my YouTube channel, Motivated to Heal, has a ton of great videos there, lots of free content. And I share a ton of free content in my Facebook group, Motivated to Heal Naturally.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I actually, I'm thinking of some people that uh, I need to send over to you.
Sure.
All right. So
That'd be
everyone,
awesome.
thank you for tuning in to Thriving Through Trials. If you've been inspired by the incredible stories shared on this show and would like to stay connected with us, make sure to follow us on all your favorite social media platforms. You can find us on YouTube at Freedom Wellness Physiatry and Facebook at the same name. And remember, if you are a loved one, are in the DMV and in need of our specialized service, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to partner with caregivers and help those facing severe debility achieve increased mobility, function, and quality of life at home. Simply visit our website at www.freedomwellnessphysiatry. Physiatry is spelled PHYSIATRY.com. Or give us a call at 240-339-5377 to book an appointment. Your journey to thriving begins with a single step, and we're here to support you every step of the way. And if you have a story to share, you can email me at info@freedomwellnessphysiatry.com so you can be a special guest on our show. Thank you so much, Sandie, for being with us. I really enjoyed our talk today, and I wish you a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye-bye.